Some people call it F and F, and the second word is fight, or F and F, and the first word is fight.
Hey everyone, it's Meri here. Welcome back to Sister Wives Daily. Buckle up because today's episode is packed with secondhand embarrassment, jaw-dropping delusion, and a spotlight-hungry ex who just doesn't know when to stop. Imagine this. Your ex-wife is marrying a guy who's everything you feigned being, but never actually were. Rather than graciously fading into the background, you actually fantasize about upstaging them. That's Kody for you, a real-time cringe compilation in motion. Let's discuss David for a moment. He's the type of guy who emanates quiet strength, a good husband to Christine, and a good father. Even Maddie, who refers to him as her favorite, couldn't stop crying when talking about how much of an amazing dad he is. That moment, it said everything. No theatrics, no bragging, just pure love and respect. Now compare that to Kody. The man actually believed that he could steal the spotlight at a wedding that he wasn't invited to. That's not confidence, that's delusion in a cape. It's like seeing someone tone deaf crash a singing contest and hope for a standing ovation. Except instead of a roar of applause, all he gets is secondhand shame. And the best part? You know Kody would have commandeered the mic to make some cringeworthy passive-aggressive address of how things didn't pan out with Christine. Hey, but maybe David will do better. That kind of petty is more than embarrassing. It's movie-worthy. Let's stop here for a moment and enjoy the contrast even more. David, who admitted he's not much of a dancer, still took to the dance floor for Christine anyway. No ego, just love. That's the kind of man you'd want by your side. Kody, on the other hand, dances like a man in a windstorm, crazy, uncontrolled, and more likely to hurt someone than entertain. This dude once jerked Christine's arm around so hard while dancing, you'd have thought he was hoping to win a match of wrestling. And then he has the imagination to dream up coming back to humiliate the groom at some kind of look at me flash in a wedding he wasn't even attending. You can't make this up. The degree of self-hallucination is absurd. He portrays himself as this smooth-talking, wronged ex-hero, but we all know he's just the mayor of Clown Town, trying out for a reality TV show we didn't ask for. And the wives? Trust they're tuned in and wondering the same thing we all are. What was I thinking? But here's the surprise. While Kody is occupied dreaming he's the lead in a production where nobody is hiring him, David is out there, simply, being a good man. No drama, no necessity for applause, just appearing, loving entirely, and living a life that does not require justification. And then you figure Kody can't possibly sink any lower, and then he drops that bombshell, telling us that he wouldn't trade the relationship he's got with Robyn for anything with his own children. The kicker is that nobody ever did ask him to make that decision. It's not a decision between the two, it's just effort and emotional maturity. But I guess that's too much to ask of Kody. So, yeah, David gets this one. No contest. Kody should be grateful that he wasn't invited, because if he had attended, that wedding would have turned from a celebration to absolute circus. Stay tuned because the drama may be crazy, but the truth, it's even better. And just when you thought the emotional roller coaster was over, enter the wedding dance. As the evening wrapped up, the kids couldn't help but reflect on how much it felt like the family gatherings they used to have. The vibe, pure joy, and the reason, no Kody, no Robyn, just genuine connection and a space finally free of draining energy. It was undeniable. The absence of Kody and Robyn seemed to lift a weight off everyone's shoulders. The smiles were real. The laughter was unforced. It was like a glimpse into what could have been, had ego and control not hijacked the family narrative. Speaking of Robyn, let's talk about her and the infamous church shopping trip with Aurora and Brianna. Lots of bags, lots of money spent, but rather surprising amounts of style to speak of. It wasn't only the fashion sensibilities, however, it was the attitude. Something was just off. The dynamics of that family have ever been complicated, but observing these scenes, you can feel the distance emotionally. The children are just more themselves, more vibrant when they are outside of Kody and Robyn's presence. And let's back up a bit. Do you remember when Robyn originally became a part of the family? During those initial couch interviews, the wives made an effort to be supportive, even sympathetic. But after a few episodes, the cracks were already beginning to appear. You could almost see the patience evaporating from their faces. The tears, the drama, the manipulation. Behind the scenes, you just know it was worse. Kody, on the other hand, keeps on keeping on, doing whatever he feels like when he feels like it, but only if it's for himself or Robyn. With his children, crickets, and nobody ever told him to leave Robyn. They merely wanted effort, a sliver of equilibrium. But Robyn's icy welcome for his children has rendered any sort of healing virtually impossible. Consider Truly's birthday night with dinner, for instance. The lack of food was not only inconsiderate, but symbolic. Yabel's face did all the talking, and there wasn't even a place for Truly to sleep that night. How do you not want to offer sufficient food for your child's birthday, particularly when you are not exactly struggling with finances? It is as if they anticipated the kids clearing out the moment filming ended, and that is only the tip of the iceberg. Behind the scenes, it was much more tragic. Christine was forced to seek a court order just to receive child support because Kody was unwilling to take a financial role. And visitations? He was more accommodating with nearly every other child, but truly, she was worth so much better. And don't even get us started on the notorious bike lesson. That was not only uncomfortable, but was on the verge of abuse. Kody was completely lacking in patience, understanding, and love. In contrast, David has entered Truly's life as the constant, safe figure Truly always required. Seeing Christine shine in this new life, it's a healing balm to every viewer who watched her suffer through years of broken dreams. But still, Kody won't take responsibility for anything. To him, why he's not close with his kids isn't him. It's Robyn. It's the ex-wives. It's the corruption of the children. In real life, him, his neglect, his favoritism, his outright refusal to emotionally show up. Blaming Robyn is nothing more than another smokescreen, a worn-out diversion from what the real problem is, himself. Let's be fair, Robyn's not innocent, but Kody's story is getting more and more ridiculous. He portrays himself as a martyr, the poor guy who had to choose Robyn, who was woefully compelled to sacrifice his family in the process. But no one compelled that choice. He made it, voluntarily and persistently. And here's what's more revealing. Both Kody and Robyn are purposefully building their own redemption stories. They're establishing their own side of the story in case their relationship doesn't work out. But the question isn't whether they'll remain together. It's who the family and the fans will really be loyal to when the cracks finally blow wide open. The most heartbreaking of all? Kody now publicly speaks hurtful, destructive things about his own kids. Words are important, particularly when you're a parent. But rather than empathy or responsibility, Kody holds on to control. He demands that if his children want a relationship, they must seek him out. But this is the thing. Adult children do not operate this way. They yearn for mutual respect, not ultimatums. His unwillingness to appear except in the company of Robyn, his failure to acknowledge his children's emotions, and his intense discomfort with any view that is different from his own. That's what's pushed them away. Not Robyn's being there, but his not being there in any important sense. He's relocated them between states, separated them from one another, favored some over others, and abused resources that could have benefited the family. Rather than cultivating independence and positive communication, he commanded obedience and control, and it collapsed horribly. And the ugly truth is this: the children don't particularly miss him without Robyn. They just plain don't miss him, full stop. Robyn has protected her own kids to the point of stagnation, drawing a sharply divided line between homes. Both she and Kody demand to have things their own way, no give and take, no expansion. And since Garrison's death, we haven't witnessed real healing. Kody indicates the door is ajar, but he will not take a step through it. And as long as he does not, all those shattered relationships will remain where he left them, in shambles. And if you were thinking it couldn't get any worse, hello, third act of the Kody Brown circus. It's simpler for him to put the blame literally on everyone else than to glance in the mirror. At one point, he even asked his kids to apologize to Robyn if they wanted to spend Christmas together. Yes, you read that correctly. Apologize to Robyn for being hurt by his decisions. No surprise, they didn't. He later backpedaled and stated he merely wished to have a conversation. But come on. The subtext was apparent. Grovel or you're not invited. That degree of emotional manipulation? Right out of the narcissist's playbook. Kody desires total control, and when he doesn't receive it, he plays the victim. Suddenly, everyone else is at fault. His kids, his ex-wives, even Robyn on occasion. But never him. Never him. What's the outcome? Isolation. As his kids live their lives, raising healthy, loving families of their own, Kody remains stuck. Stuck in a cycle of ego, denial, and what-ifs. The master builder of his own solitude. And just when you think he can't embarrass himself anymore, come the tree-chopping stunt. I have never witnessed a more catastrophic effort at manual labor. Kody boasts that he's felled more than 1,000 trees in his lifetime. 1,000! Unless this guy was secretly a lumberjack in a previous incarnation, that figure is fantasy. It was both funny and terrifying watching him struggle around with that chainsaw. He's irresponsible, clueless, and manages to make everything more complex. The pride moment? Him sprinting up a hill to, wait for it, jump and knock a ladder over. What was the thought here? Utilize a stool like an average person? Naturally not. Stools are for individuals who don't wear gloves and walk about their land like it's a cosplay of a midlife crisis. I laughed so hard I replayed it just to ensure it really did occur. And let's not omit the actual peril. This was not merely comedy. It bordered on madness. He once confessed to knocking down a tree that used to end up on their roof. And the cherry on top? He never completes the task. Leaves trees knocked down all over the place like abandoned storylines in his own reality show. Deadbeat dad, deadbeat husband, and now, deadbeat task completer. Honestly, what's next? Deadbeat teeth? Because let's be real, his smile appears to have been in a bar brawl with a belt sander. Someone get this man to a dentist. Stat. And that pile of ladders? Comedy gold. The man can't even stack wood properly. In the very first episode of this whole mess, Kody talks about chopping trees and is mocked for never cleaning up the ones he already cut. Even Robyn's on his case. Don't worry, Kody says. I'll finish one before moving on. Sure, January, whatever view he thought he was improving, still looks like a disaster zone. Logs just lying around, rotting. With 24 kids at his disposal, you'd think he could teach someone how to split and stack wood, right? But nope, suddenly everyone's too young. So naturally, he just doesn't do it. I've seen people fell trees with skill, care, and safety in mind. Kody? Not even close. His method is chaos. It's the result of someone who was either never taught properly or someone who's so convinced he knows best, he ignores advice entirely. Either way, he's a walking liability. Genuinely, the manner in which he functions is shouting undiagnosed ADHD with a dash of narcissism. That hectic energy? It is not adorable. It's dangerous. And while he's acting the rugged outdoorsy type, he's actually just dressing up, hitting the bars, and curling his hair like he's gearing up for a boy band comeback tour. Since he purchased that property, we all knew he wasn't going to do the actual work. He charges into projects like a golden retriever on espresso and then abandons them in the middle of the job. And don't even start me on his COVID hypocrisy, skipping out on parenting responsibilities under the guise of being safe, just for his kids and the nanny to catch it anyway. The guy's always dripping with sweat, always monopolizing the showers, and still somehow managing to do all but being a parent. That little chainsaw he began with? Cringeworthy. And then he cuts to a second one in the middle of a scene like it's an action film. The entire scene was obviously set up, but Robyn yelling Kody repeatedly? That was award-worthy. They resembled a disheveled sitcom pair who don't know they're the joke. But let's go ahead and ask the actual question here. Why is he chopping down all these trees? For the view? Please. He's doing it to flaunt. And instead of doing something awesome with the wood, such as carving seats or creating a fire pit, it's just huge, ugly stumps waiting for someone to trip over them. Having him run the chainsaw while chopping at the trunk with an axe made me more nervous than any B-movie horror film. And perhaps that's why Robyn is always babying him, because, sincerely, someone needs to. He's out here demonstrating on a daily basis that he can't be trusted alone with power equipment. And as for that 1,000 trees boast, complete joke. He's just lucky he hasn't been visiting the ER, or worse. And lastly, the cream on Kody's sundae of chaos, duffing up a perfectly good tree because it obstructed his mountain vista. Face palm. Kody's most recent effort to show he's a man, alongside fancy sports cars, indoor shades, and hair that looks as if it's been done by woodland fairies. Let's be real, Kody is proficient at doing one thing: losing. 3 failed marriages, 13 estranged children, and a house coming apart quicker than his reputation. Without the television show and the original family, Kody Brown would amount to nothing. And that's what hurts the worst. I used to think he was a good guy. But now, it's just a scam with hairspray. Then came Kody's big, proud declaration. Now that I'm a monogamist, my wife gets to make the rules. Cute spin. But here's the real story. Robyn has always made the rules. Always. This is not some newfound enlightenment. It's just the final stage of his transformation into a background character in his own life. Watching him in this episode felt like witnessing a full-on manic spiral. He literally looked like he was having a seizure while bragging about his so-called lumberjack skills. I've cut down heads. I mean, acres of trees. Yeah, no. He thinks all this manic energy makes him look masculine, but it really just makes him look unhinged. What Kody actually needs, short of a very serious therapist and perhaps a midlife crisis support group, is someone to guide him through all the high school put-downs that apparently he never ever got over. He says he cut down hundreds of trees in Vegas. Sure, Kody, just as you led a successful plural family. And now, Robyn can't even call him out when he goes off the rails because doing so would violate her own rules. For years, the other wives were the ones who kept Kody in check, or at least busy enough to keep him from behaving like a chainsaw wild toddler. But now, he's trapped. One wife, no distractions, nowhere to hide, except possibly that strange crawl space he spent building beneath the house. Even then, Robyn's always watching. Oh, and don't forget the grin. For real, send this guy to a dentist, please. His teeth are whiter than marshmallow peeps. Threaten him with a second wife? No problem. The true authority? That's all Robyn, legally and in terms of finances. She could ask for custody of her mom, and he'd cave quicker than his teensy visor. When Kody refers to rules, what he essentially means is limits, something entirely outside of his emotional lexicon. The only reason he's keeping to them now is because, without Robyn, he'd have completely nobody. That's why his polygamist years were such a mess. No responsibility, No routine, just sheer anarchy in a button-up shirt. Remember that cringe romantic moment with Meri? The awkwardness was not real. Robyn shut it down like a bouncer shutting down the VIP entrance at a club. Their marriage is not so much about sacred covenants, but about keeping up a power dynamic where Kody thinks he's in charge, but everybody knows better. Kody likes to reverse cause and effect. He'll say the wives behaved out, so he pulled away and privileged Robyn. But in fact, they behaved out because he ceased being a husband. Like when Janelle purchased that RV and indicated, if I wait for Kody, I'll be homeless. And then he got angry at her for not being a wife. It's a never-ending cycle of dysfunction. And let's get real, they're only pretending for the camera's sake now. Separate bedrooms? Absolutely. A larger house? Just so they don't have to share a bed. Robyn even decorated the master bedroom herself. You can sense the distance even when they stand side by side. By this time, Kody's been Robyn's puppet since the beginning. He does what she says, most likely without even knowing how thoroughly controlled he's always been. Don't forget about when he developed an instant gluten intolerance after marrying Robyn? Not a coincidence. So who then desires Kody? He's deluded in need of validation, and honestly, just sad. The patriarchy begins and ends with Kody and Robyn, a marriage sans love, but obfuscated by delusion. No spark, no chemistry, only awkward air and shattered dreams. Did you catch him attempting to teach another person his dance moves? It was half cringe, half cry for help. He couldn't even try and teach truly how to ride a bike. And that sums it up. At least the other wives are now free. Meri should get a chance at a true relationship, something better than the poison she had. Ultimately, it's always been Robyn pulling the strings, even when Kody tried to claim he was the polygamist in charge. No wonder the others left. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like the chaos, give this a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who's still recovering from the ladder jumping scene. I will catch you in the next video. Be well, and lots of love to everyone.